Good afternoon. This is a fast-paced event, but rich in content. My name is Luis Tineo. I'm the interim CEO of the Climate Investment Funds, and I will make a few introductory remarks, and then the moderator will facilitate the discussion. For me, it's exciting, and I'm very honored to welcome you here to this event today. We are highlighting the innovations that the CIF is pioneering. For nearly 15 years, the CIF has served as the largest pool of concessional funds, finance for 6 of the AAA-rated MDBs. We are supporting projects, over 400 projects in 70 developing countries. Today, we will showcase the ways in which the CIF is looking to mobilize more critical concessional resources to address frontier climate changes in emerging economies and developing countries. Our work on these frontier challenges will be boosted by the generous new contribution by the United States, about which we will hear more details today. We are thankful for their continued support. These resources will mobilize significant support to our continued efforts in clean technology, including decarbonizing industry, which involves both reducing emissions in hard-to-abate heavy-emitting sectors and encouraging the development of green industry supply chains to help address the growing demand for clean technologies. The CIF is working closely with its 6 MDB partners, along with many other stakeholders, to finalize and launch the first multilateral investment program dedicated to tackling both of these aspects of heavy industry. Collaboration with our MDB partners is moving beyond just the use of resources. We are bringing the significant scale to our effort. The CIF is collaborating closely with the World Bank, EBRD, and our 4 other implementing MDBs to design and structure the CIF Capital Markets Mechanism, which will allow the CIF Clean Technology Fund to commit $500 million a year in new concessional finance for clean technology projects in low and middle-income countries. The CIF will be the first pure-play capital market issuer in the MDB space that finances projects that apply low-carbon technologies in mitigating greenhouse gas emissions. The CCMM will enable CIF to front-load the CTF projects reflow by accessing the international capital markets to accelerate availability of climate financing now when it is most needed. This important work is ongoing and will continue throughout 2024. I want to note that I shared this important agenda with the CIF's incoming CEO, Tarje Garregevsin, and who I'd like to join me here at the stage and say a few words. And yes, we are really excited about this selection, and
Thank you. Thank you, Luis. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to take on this role, especially at this critical time when we must significantly scale climate finance to where it's needed most. But we have limited time this afternoon, so without further ado, I'm actually going to hand it back to Luis so that he can speak to the rest of the programming. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tarje. We are super happy to have you on board. Now I'd like you to turn your attention to an important message by the U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen.
Hello, everyone. The United States is one of the founding donors to the Climate Investment Funds. I'm glad to affirm our continued support through a new contribution of $568 million to CIF, to CIF's largest fund, the Clean Technology Fund. This loan follows our $950 million loan to CTF last year and brings total U.S. contributions to CIF to $3.5 billion. The new loan will help advance CTF programming through its private sector window, the Accelerating Coal Transition Program and the Global Energy Storage Program. And it will enable CTF's expansion to support new areas, such as clean energy supply chains and green industry. In countries around the world, building out these supply chains is key to reducing emissions and realizing the economic opportunities of the clean energy transition, such as job creation. As a unique cross-multilateral development bank platform, a strong CIF is also crucial to our efforts to strengthen the climate finance architecture and to evolve the MDBs to better respond to global challenges like climate change. Today, I'd also like to express my support for the World Bank's announcement that it will launch the CIF Capital Markets Mechanism in 2024. This mechanism, another cross-MDB initiative, will support CIF programming by tapping into capital markets, creating a new channel for private sector investors to support the climate transition in developing countries, and contributing to our key priority of private sector mobilization. I call on the World Bank and many others involved in this important work to launch the CIF Capital Markets Mechanism well ahead of COP29. With that, thank you to everyone for attending. I'm glad to be able to reaffirm the United States' commitment to mobilizing climate finance and to CIF. And I look forward to what we will collectively accomplish in the next year.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Robert Watt. I am the head of partnerships at the Leadership Group for Industry Transition, and it's my great honor to be your master of ceremonies today as we hear from a fantastic panel of speakers reflecting on this announcement and on the topic of our session today, scaling up just energy transitions to enable industry decarbonization. The numbers that Secretary Yellen has just announced are pretty big, but then the scale of the challenge is sizable. Just taking industry and the decarbonization of the heavy industry sectors as an example, they represent 25% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And recent numbers would indicate that by 2030, we need to be putting about $2 trillion into decarbonization efforts in those sectors. Well, the kicker is, of course, that it is in the emerging markets and developing economies that the great demand for many of the products of these industries will be. And it's there that there has been real difficulties in accessing the sort of finance that CIF can provide. And perhaps I can turn to my panel here. Let me introduce them to you before we go any further. Immediately to my left, I have Axel van Trotsenburg, who is Senior Managing Director at the World Bank. And to his left, Baroness Charlotte Vere, who is Parliamentary Secretary of His Majesty's Treasury of the United Kingdom. And then I have Tatiana Rosito, who is Vice Minister at the Ministry of Finance of Brazil. And also Odile Renaud-Basso, who is President of the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. And lastly, Adam Wang Levine, who is Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Climate, Environment and Infrastructure, United States. Very warm welcome, please, to this panel. If I can start with you, Mr. van Trotsenburg, could you give us some reflection on why this announcement is so important?
Well, it's not only this announcement is important, it is the collective. When you are seeing this today is Finance Day, and you see from one media to the others where you see a couple of things. There's urgency to act. We need to have massive investments. We need to actually come together and act now. So there are overarching messages coming, and in the case of the MDB context, where there have been a couple of meetings, it's clearly that we need to work as a system. So there are clear calls upon us how we need to act, and we need to do that together. So the bank has to do that, and we are scaling up. You may have heard this from Ajay Banga, that we would like to have in our next fiscal year about 45% of our commitments, of our total commitments dedicated to climate change, including on the energy transition. But it's also very clear that it's all not enough, and we are sitting, if we are having to work together as a system. Now, the wonderful thing of the CIFs is that they are really dedicated to the whole climate aspect, and it is a key vehicle that can be employed effectively in many, many areas. And it can be in the co-financing area, it has been stimulating the private sector, etc. The bottom line is we will need all the efforts to complement each other on this. So I see any of this announcement as part of a one stone. It is not but I think it is very important that together we may have a little bit of a better chance to make a difference. And therefore that is so important that there is this work going on the Climate Investment Fund, including also how you bring, and that is also another call in general towards us as multilaterals to be more innovative. So we are working, the CIFs are working within in the bank, and they have been partnering with our Treasury to see how we can actually develop this so-called capital market mechanism, and our Treasury will be here the manager. And it is part of this is to front load the Clean Technology Fund project reflows by accessing international capital markets. Incident, I was quite happy to read that, because that idea came actually originally from the Fund for IDA, where we had Advanced Commitment Authority taking the reflows early to front. And I think this is where we can learn, but also then further develop this, and that will provide additional resources on this. And we hope to have that ready for 2024. So I think what the bottom line is, we need to see how we can complement each other as effectively, and hopefully also by really tapping into capital markets, identify additional resources that can be employed in developing countries in the whole coal transition, in the energy transitions, and hopefully that will have catalytic effects.
Thank you. Can I turn to you, Baroness Vere? The United Kingdom has been a great supporter of the CIF. How do you see this CIF Capital Markets Mechanism helping to scale up?
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, the United Kingdom has supported CIF for a very, very long time, and we continue to work very closely with CIF on this capital markets mechanism. We think it's incredibly important, and I think that it's part of what we're doing in the wider frame of trying to take this financing need forward, of looking at all different sources of finance. Because one of the things that has really struck me over the course of the last couple of days is really getting to understand quite how much financing is going to be needed in all sorts of different locations and in different ways of implementation. And public funds are not going to do it alone, and not going to do it alone by a long way. So we've really, really got to think about how we can come up with all sorts of different mechanisms, leveraging public financing as much as possible. And I think the other thing I did want to bring up today, because I promised I probably only got the conch just this once, is the Industrial Decarbonization Programme, which is also really, really important. And in that context, I am delighted that I'm sitting next to the Brazil Finance Ministry, because we've announced something really important with Brazil. It's obviously a real key player in decarbonisation in developing countries. So that's why the UK, along with Brazil, is setting up the Brazil Hubs for Industrial Decarbonisation and Hydrogen Transition, Why is this important? Well, A, it's important for us in Brazil because it's a really cool project, but it also gives the platform for us to then bring in all of the different sorts of financing that we're going to need to take the hydrogen sector forward in Brazil so that we can share learning, because obviously we're doing the same in the UK with hydrogen. We need to share learning, we need to make sure we can get the financing. So we need these platforms for countries like the UK and Brazil to work together to enable that stability and certainty such that investors will feel very keen to get involved. So I'm really pleased about all of that. So you have heard enough from me, and I think I'm now handing along to Brazil.
Yes, thank you so much, Baroness Vere, for also demonstrating the power of partnerships that Mr. van Trotsenburg also spoke to. Yes, Vice Minister, could you perhaps reflect a little bit on this question of scaling up and the role of the sort of mechanisms and finance that CIF can catalyze?
Thank you. This is indeed a great opportunity for us to be part of. This is a very happy day, and we are increasing, scaling up. We heard from the contributions from the US and also other partners like the UK. Brazil has a very good and long history of partnership with the CIFs, and particularly I would like to highlight here the Renewable Energy Integration Plan, the REI that we have endorsed, that CIFs has endorsed in 2023. And I would like to say one thing that really it's important there is that we are mobilizing 9.1 billion from partners, including 8 billion from private investment. And out of 70 million CIF contributions. So this means a ratio of 1 to 130, which is really even higher than the CIF average of 110 for clean energy investments. So, so I think working together, we can really get there. And I think there is more to come. So as Baroness Vere mentioned, hydrogen is really crucial for us. Brazil has just, within its ecological transformation plan, which is really an ecological or a national transition plan. We have taken many measures, including we are on the verge of approving a carbon market, a taxonomy, but we have also approved a new green hydrogen law. So this will really help spur our cooperation. And we plan to increase our hydrogen production in the PECEM hub, which is in the northeast in Fortaleza, with a projected installed capacity of 6 gigawatts by 2034. So we really believe that with a very robust green hydrogen value chain, Brazil could not only exports and be a source, use its natural capital to exports, but also, and very interesting, Brazil, which already exports 20% of the world's iron, could be a leader in green steel production. So this is really very, innovative, and it's a very clear way in which we grasp this, the new technology, avenues. I would like to say that we could, with this new upgraded grid, Brazilians could play a more active role in also electricity production, and we like to call it to become prosumers, producers and consumers of energy. Also would like to take the opportunity to mention this, the industry that we are looking forward to work with the CIFs in the industry decarbonization program. Really, this is part and parcel also of the ecological transition plan. In particular, it has 6 axes or dimensions, but of the technological enhancement and development, and the energy transition, which is a very important part of this plan. We have also launched last Saturday the preliminary roadmap for industrial decarbonization in Brazil, launched by our Ministry of Industry. And actually, if you allow me a final word, we have just assumed the G20 presidency on December 1st. And there we are much looking forward to work with partners and members on decarbonization. We have set a few avenues for that. One is for sure in the sustainable finance agenda and the sustainable finance working group, where the transition finance is one of the main priorities, to work also towards just transition plans. But also in other areas, including in the task force that we are proposing to reflect the climate emergency and the 1.5 mission. So, and we are also thinking, we welcome the capital markets mechanism. This is, I think, one of the main challenges that we have ahead of us, how to really have the right risk-return profile to allow for these investments. There is a lot of money over there, but finally, we need to work also at the country level, and I close here, and one of, within MDB reforms and MDBs as working as a system, we think that working on country platforms and on economy-wide platforms will be crucial to help make this, to scale and make it faster too. So thank you very much, and look forward to work with all of you.
Thank you so much, Vice Minister. An incredibly rich description. Glad you also mentioned the G20. I think we'll all have our eyes on that platform in the next year or so. May I turn to you now, President Renaud-Basso. The EBRD has been extensive experience in financing transition infrastructure. How does this announcement mark a step change?
So first of all, we welcome the announcement. I think we've been working with the CIF very actively since it was created in 2008. It's a very important partner for us. So we very much welcome the US announcement because it brings more resources. And we are very excited also with this enabling industry decarbonization, because we believe that, first of all, to start with, industry emission represent 25% of global emissions. So if we want to address climate change, we need to tackle this kind of, this issue. And we believe the CIF can play a very active role in complementarity with MDBs and helping MDBs to tackle that. What we think we should be doing, the first thing is, I think, to work with the private sector on defining what are the low carbon pathways, how to address this issue, what are the kind of solution, and of course, private investment will be key in that, but they cannot do the heavy lifting alone. So I think that there is a role for government, for public institutions to help in that respect. And we've been working in Turkey, for example, which is a very industrialized country with heavy industry, and working with all the partners, all the companies, the business, in order to define what are the challenges and what is the kind of solution to agree on a low carbon pathway. We've done the same in Egypt, and I think this is then we have a good roadmap and a common basis for work. Second thing we can do is implementing projects, so providing finance, and that's where Climate Investment Fund can be very helpful, because for some projects, you have a green premium. So it's a new type of solution, more risky, more costly, and being able to bring market terms finance plus climate investment fund type of financing is what we need in order to develop this new solution and to kick off the green transition efforts. And the third element is that MDBs can help and are helping to mobilize private sector, inventing new tools, blending finance, addressing with these blending tools the question of affordability, supporting early movers who face uncertainty. When you try, you don't know what will be the outcome. So it's very important to have this kind of financial support and being able to support innovation that we expect later on will be the basis for solution and will have external positive externalities. So we are very keen to continue to work with Climate Investment Fund, and you can count on us as a loyal partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wang Levin, your boss made a fantastic announcement just now. What are your hopes for this mechanism?
Sure. Before I start with that, I would also say, in the spirit of collaboration, we're very much looking forward to working with Brazil on its ambitious G20 agenda, particularly in the Sustainable Finance Working Group. This is a really exciting time, I believe, for the climate investment funds, and I'd probably want to point out two things. The first is our Vice President, Kamala Harris, announced not only the contribution to the Clean Technology Fund, but announced it alongside the Clean Energy Supply Chain Collaborative that we think can be a very important initiative. As you heard Secretary Yellen mention earlier, we look forward to using this contribution to explore new ways in which the clean technology funds can deploy these resources, including clean energy supply chains, green industry, and industry decarbonization. We also think through this contribution, they can continue to support the existing programming, which includes accelerating coal transition, the ACT program, as well as the Global Energy Storage Program. The second thing I'd like to emphasize is also related to the CCMM, or the CIF Capital Markets Mechanism, which we believe is an innovative opportunity to capture value from the CTF reflows, which can fund new programming. I think this is an important priority, not only because of financial efficiency that can be gained from it, but also as a potential model for other climate funds in the future. As Axel just stressed, the CCMM, we believe, can make the CIFs much more financially efficient and not dependent on donor resources. However, we still continue to believe that donor grants will still be needed for the CIF to deliver across its mandate, especially for resilience. I'd also like to very much welcome the World Bank's announcement to serve as the Treasury Manager for the CCMM. This is a very exciting milestone. Finally, the challenge of launching the CCMM is, I think, complicated because you need to get all of the pieces in place. And this is why we would call on the CIF Secretariat, the World Bank, the regional development banks, and all of the CTF contributors to work together in the next months, so that hopefully well before COP29, we're celebrating the launch of the CCMM. Finally, I'd like to close by welcoming Tarier as the new CIF CEO, as well as thanking Luis for his gracious efforts as the interim CEO.
Thank you very much, Adam. Yes, an applaud, I think, to the whole of this panel. And as we round out, I'm just going to summarize by saying that we talked a lot about the need for innovation in policy, innovation in technology, but here we're talking about real innovation in how we deploy finance and how we work together to make sure it is really scaling up that just energy transition. Thank you very much for your attention today.